favor. Llena esta forma. What can I do for you? Are you in pain? What is it? Tell me what's the matter. What is it? Can you tell me? Mr. Hudson! Mr. Hudson, please! Is there anybody free back there?
Mrs. Thorpe just came down. She's helping out tonight. Let's get him inside. Come on, son.
Mrs. Thorpe, can you take this boy?
The doctor will be here in just a minute.
Pain. Oh, pain. Come over here and sit down and tell me all about it, hmm? That's it.
Miss Watkins, what did he say that it was?
Something I've never heard of. Some kind of tic de la rue.
Tic de la rue.
Is there such a thing?
Yes.
Now take your hands down so I can see what it is. Come on. That's it. That's it.
Mrs. Thorpe, may I speak to this boy?
I can send him down to your office later, Mr. Hudson.
No, I think I can expedite the matter. Look, do you have tic de la rue?
Yeah.
How do you know you've got it?
The doctor told me.
Why don't you go to that doctor now?
I was going by and I got this thing again, this awful pain, and so I figured go in and get something for it. Please, give me something for the pain.
The doctor will be here in just...
Look, pal, this is a clinic. They don't hand out narcotics just like that.
Prescription, that's all I want, just a prescription.
They don't hand out prescriptions for narcotics either. Until they do a lot of checking. Now, is your pain bad enough to put you ahead of everybody else in the line?
I don't know.
Why don't you go back out to the waiting room and think it over? We'll get you a doctor if you really want one. Or maybe you'll decide it's smarter to forget the whole thing. Problem kids like that make a career out of tic de la rue. They can't even pronounce it, but they learn how to fake it pretty well. Once in a while, they even convince a doctor to give them a grain of narcotics.
Yeah, well, isn't he a little young to be a dope addict?
Oh, he's no addict. He didn't really want a shot. It was a prescription he wanted. You can sell prescriptions for good money.
You mean, that child is something like a dope pusher?
No, but you can bet a pusher put him up to it. They use kids like this just because they look so innocent.
Well, you know, that's what this kid was up to.
Mrs. Thorpe, every social worker knows the stunt. Now, they pull it with the tic de la rue, a renal colic. Any disease where the symptoms aren't clear, and the doctor must take the patient's word that he's in severe pain. Believe me, Mrs. Thorpe, that kid's problem is social, not medical.
Social problems, is it?
He was faking the tic. That's why he tried to leave.
I don't know anything about that. But he certainly isn't faking this.
Good morning. Morning.
Thank you. You have any pain now?
I had it before. I did. I'm not fooling around.
Mm-hmm.
Tic de la Rue. I had it a long time.
How long have you had the sore in your arm? Open up. Tongue bother you much? Tell me something. What'd you have to eat yesterday?
A couple of things.
Like what?
I had a roll.
And? When's the last time you had a piece of roast beef? Pot roast, hamburger, chicken, glass of milk?
I don't like milk.
You live with your parents? Come on, tell me who takes care of you. Mother, sister, aunt? What? Miss Lucas? You like eggnog?
What's that?
Chocolate flavor?
Yeah.
Come on, Miss Lucas, we'll get him a chocolate eggnog. One egg, 8 ounces of milk, 2 ounces of protein concentrate.
Yes, sir.
Oh, somebody must have shook up the residents around here. The admitting diagnosis was correct.
Was it malnutrition?
Not that you could miss it. He's got faulty wound healing. He's got edema. He's got a beefy red tongue you could use for a lecture on pellagra.
But has he got tic de la Rue?
Well, that's not so easy. Severe neuralgia, the symptoms are subjective. Who knows? All I can say is he doesn't show it now. So we'll treat the malnutrition with niacin and protein, and we'll fix it in a few days. I'll write the orders. What's his name?
We don't know.
Oh, that's nice. He wouldn't tell me who he was living with, either. I wonder if the police are looking for this boy.
Well, Andy, if you're so fond of the police, I'll get you a whistle on your next birthday.
Hey, you're so smart. How come you don't know his name?
Because he was admitted unconscious, and he slept all night, and I'm going to get his name right now. Good morning. Do you remember me from last night? My name is Mrs. Thorpe. What's yours?
Ben.
Ben what?
Smith.
And now, I want you to tell me your real name and the names of your parents. They must be very worried about you.
I haven't got no parents.
No? Well, the name of your guardian. Where do you live? You have to live somewhere, don't you? Oh, come on now. You know you're going to have to tell us. Ben, you're not being very smart.
Don't tell me I'm not smart. I'm as smart as you are. I know what you can do to me. Nothing. I don't have to say one word, and all you can do is throw me out.
Ben, don't be foolish. You're a sick boy.
No, I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if I die. Go ahead, throw me out.
We don't do that here.
He'll do it. That guy that worked me over last night, he'll bounce me out of here.
Nobody's gonna bounce you out of here.
Ben, I'll get out by myself. Give me my clothes. I'll get out of here right there.
Look, wouldn't you like to drink some of this before you go anywhere?
No.
Try it, Ben. How is it?
It's all right.
Ben, don't be afraid to tell me who your folks are.
I'm not afraid. It's just I can't think straight. I don't remember. I must have hit my head when I fell, and that's why I don't remember.
I see. Well, maybe you'll remember in a little while.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I will. Hey.
What is it?
If I tell you the truth, will you believe it?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's worrying about me.
Send it to social service.
You'll just send it to Mr. Hudson.
Not bad.
Mr. Hudson was the one who scared him last night. That's why he ran, and he's still afraid. Andy, what would you think if I held off for a little while, just to see what some eggnogs and a few kind words would do?
I think you were out of your mind. Malnutrition is our problem. The rest of it belongs to social service. What are you so mad about? You know I'm right.
It would be such a pleasure, just once, to find a doctor who was wrong.
So it's Ben Smith, hmm? Couldn't you pick a little classier name? Why don't you change the Smith to Delarue, and then change the Ben to Dick? Then you could call yourself Dick Delarue. How's that name strike you?
Hey, don't bug me, man. I'm too sleepy to think.
Tell me, Ben, where did you do all of your sleeping before you came to the hospital here?
I don't remember.
You must have a pretty thick head to strike it that hard and not even raise a bump.
So I didn't hit my head. I just don't remember. You think I care if you believe it?
I'm going to fool you, pal. I believe it. I believe it, Mrs. Thorpe. Pardon me. I believe it. When you go to sleep in too many different places, you can't keep track of them all. Now, that kid back in there is a roamer.
What do you mean by a roamer?
A juvenile vagrant, a kid who roams the streets most of the day and sleeps in an alley, a hallway, or basement.
Oh, I didn't realize there were children living like that in New York.
Nobody knows how many. At least 2,000 or more.
Just you mean they actually have no homes?
They have homes, most of them. They just don't go there. Now, if we could only get Ben to tell us who his people are, maybe we could send him home before taking legal action. Otherwise, we have to discharge him to the custody of the juvenile court and have him adjudged delinquent.
Oh, why a delinquent? Mr. Hudson, you don't know that boy has ever committed any crime.
A chronic runaway and truant is legally delinquent. That's a crime in itself.
Well,
Thorpe.
excuse me. Why doesn't the city welfare department take care of them? Where are the truant officers?
City welfare can't take care of the cases they already have. Now, they're not searching for more. Mrs. Thorpe, there were 47,000 cases of truancy in New York last year. Now, what's the odds that some truant officer can ever catch up with Ben? Now, if I could only locate his family, then maybe I could help. If not, then it's out of my hands. And the courts may decide that he's done enough running away and send him someplace that he can't run away from.
Someplace where he can learn really how to commit a crime.
Yes, Mrs. Thorpe. That's just about the size of it.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Thorpe.
Oh, Miss Lucas, come here, dear. Now, you've talked to Ben. Has he told you anything about himself?
He likes strawberry ice cream.
Well, then, see if we have any for him.
Strawberry ice cream?
What's wrong with strawberry ice cream?
I was just wondering whether that was part of his prescribed diet.
Oh, well, let's say it is. Oh, I ordered a radio from the shop. Have you seen it?
Oh, yes, it's under the counter.
Good. Take it into him, But with Mr. Hudson's permission.
Mrs. Thorpe, I leave his diet to you, but a radio. I wouldn't coddle that boy to the point of where he finds a home here.
Mr. Hudson, you said he's a chronic runaway. Aren't you afraid of what will happen if he doesn't like it here?
No, ma'am. I'm afraid of what can happen if he does.
Hi, Ben. Would you like to take a look at these?
What?
Magazines.
No, I don't like to read.
Oh, that's a shame. What do you like?
I like to eat.
How about, Swiss steak for lunch?
I'd rather have chicken.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you'll give these magazines a try, see if I can get you chicken for lunch. Deal?
You promised me pot roast yesterday, and I didn't get it.
I didn't promise you. I said, we could get it if we had it, but we didn't have any.
Yeah, I know. That's the way you promise everything.
Well, I'll just leave these here in case you change your mind and think reading isn't such a bad idea after all.
I told you I'm not gonna read.
But... Turn that thing down, please. Ben, please turn it down.
Please what?
Turn the radio down.
I can't hear you. What did you do that for?
There are other people in this room.
You don't want me to play it? Take it back. Please. If I can't play it the way I want to play it, then I don't want the stupid thing. Will you take it back?
Ben, you can play it, but will you please have a little consideration for other people?
Mrs. Thorpe, you gonna turn my radio on again?
You can turn it on yourself.
No, you do it. You turned it off, so you can turn it on. Or else you can take it away right now.
I know why that boy's a roamer. They couldn't stand him at home.
Oh, shut up, Marilyn.
Well, you won't be needing this anymore. Let's take a look at your tongue. Huh. What? Yeah, looks pretty good. Man, there ain't nothing here but a solid calories.
You mean I'm cured?
A few more days, a few more eggnogs, you'll be on your way.
I will, huh? What about my face? You know, tic de la rue.
You haven't had any more of that, have you?
I had it last night.
I didn't see it on your chart.
Because I didn't say anything. I swear the pain was so bad I felt like screaming. But I didn't want to bother anybody, so I just kept quiet.
Ben, is that true?
Can't you cure me? Can't you give me an operation?
Nope.
Why not? I want it. I don't care if it hurts. I can take it.
What do you know about that operation?
I know that they give it to some people. Why can't you give it to me?
The operation for tic de la rue consists of severing the facial nerve. Cutting it, do you understand? Now, it kills the pain, but there's a chance of leaving the whole side of the face paralyzed. Now, in some extreme cases, an elderly person, for instance, we say, go ahead. But a 15-year-old boy with his whole life in front of him, you don't need that operation.
Come on, Ben, tell me. Tell me why you did that. You don't want everybody to think you're just a nasty kid, do you?
I don't care what everybody thinks.
Of course you care. That's why you had to take a bath all of a sudden. You had to get away from everybody because you do care.
Hey, will you get off my back?
You had good reasons for breaking that glass. Why don't you tell me about it?
You let me alone. I'm sick and you're making me worse. I'm a sick patient.
No, Ben, you're not my patient. You're my client. We call our people clients like lawyers do. You get the connection? I don't want my client to go to jail.
You go to jail for what? For breaking a glass?
No, but you know you're heading that way. Why don't you be smart and let me help you?
Because I can't be smart. Because I'm not smart, I'm dumb.
Who says you're dumb?
Any teacher I ever had.
Ben, how many times were you left back?
Once.
2, 3, 4 times?
All right.
That's the reason you dropped out of school, isn't it?
Teacher says, "My, we got a big one. Are you sure you're in the right grade?" So everybody laughs. Teacher says, "Big boy, you go and sit in the back of the room." And the desk is so small I can hardly get my feet under it. Teacher asked me a question and I can't think of the answer that fast. So she says, "Big boy, you better stay home and study tonight." Study? Where? In a fat hole full of bugs and kids?
Here, Ben, read this for me.
I can't
Don't
say
get a
it.
letter.
Told you I can't say it.
All right, Ben. We've got classes in remedial reading and special schools. We're bound to get you straightened out somehow. But first, we have to know who your people are. Are you going to tell me?
Let me alone.
Not until you tell me.
I said, let me alone, get out of here!
Ben, what's wrong with you? Now, you dropped out of school because you were the oldest and largest kid in your class and you were ashamed of it. Now, I'm trying to do something about it. Instead of helping me, you're crying the bathtub full. Now, aren't you ashamed of that?
Shut up, will you? Shut up!
Mr. Hudson.
Mrs. Thorpe, could we have a few more minutes, please?
Mrs. Thorpe, make him leave me alone.
Ben, now, come on, dry yourself off. Your lunch is ready.
Mrs. Thorpe, I can appreciate that you're genuinely concerned for the boy, but I was trying to do a job for him.
Well, my job is to keep asthenics out of a cold tub so they don't get pneumonia. Now, what's yours?
Well, actually, I just found out something. This boy reacts very strongly to humiliation. Now, I thought if I could put him through a small humiliation...
He just might run away again.
The thing to bear in mind, Mrs. Thorpe, is that nurses, even nice, warm-hearted nurses, can't protect that boy forever.
Come on, you must be kidding. You know as well as I do that schools are important to everybody.
Not to me. It's just a drag to me.
Well, how are you ever going to be anything if you don't go to school?
So you went to school. So what are you? I mean, I make a mess and you have to clean it up.
Don't you want to do more in life besides just making messes?
I can do things. Don't worry. I can do something pretty big.
What?
I can be a singer. Here. You want to listen to this guy? You think he had to go through college to sing like that?
Well, like that, I don't think he even had to finish second grade.
I'm 4 grades ahead of him.
Can you sing?
Sure I can sing. I'll show you sometime.
Well, show me now.
Nah.
Why not? I'd like to hear you sing. Don't you like it, Freddie?
Sure. Hey, you shut up.
Oh, why don't you sing something? Or can you sing, or were you just bragging?
I can sing.
Well, then let's hear you.
I can't sing laying down.
Well, get up. Come on, get up and sing.
I told you to shut up.
Ben! Get back to bed. Now. And you too. Are you all right?
Yes, I'm fine.
What happened?
It was all my fault. I was just kidding him along, you know, about singing. I didn't mean to humiliate him.
Can you bring him down to my office, please?
Can't you come up here?
I don't want to see him in the ward with the other patients, not this time.
Well, you can use my office.
Mrs. Thorpe, I don't want to use your office. I want to use mine.
All right. Take Ben down to Mr. Hudson's office, will you? Never mind. I'll take him down myself.
All right, Ben. Go on in and sit down. Mrs. Thorpe. I'd like to see him alone, if you don't mind.
Well, I just thought I might sit in.
Don't you trust me with it?
Well, it's not that, but...
You mean it is? All right, Mrs. Thorpe. I'm going to tell you the truth. No, I can't believe for him the way you do. Because I know that most roamers are Negroes and Puerto Ricans. So I say to myself, what's his complaint? A white boy. He's got a long, long lead over them. Why is he a problem? But he is a problem, and I'm a professional. So I'm dealing with the problem, not with my own attitude. Mrs. Thorpe, look, could I trust you to do a professional nursing job on any cripple?
Oh, yes.
Then will you please trust me? All right, Ben. I'm going to put it on the line. Now, this isn't breaking a glass, and it isn't faking tic de la rue. You attacked the nurse, and that's a crime. Now, you're going to tell me what I want to know, or I'm going to call the police. Mrs. Gorman?
Yes.
I'm very glad to meet you. Would you like to see the boy first?
Why, I left 5 kids at home. My husband's working tonight. I'd better get finished with you and go back.
Of course. Won't you come in, please? Have a seat, right there. He told us that his name was Ben Smith.
His name's not Ben. It's Warren. Warren Bennett. But everybody calls him Ben.
Warren, huh? Bennett? Are you the boy's mother?
No. I'm his grandmother.
Where is his mother?
In Cleveland. Well, anyway, the last I heard from my daughter, that's where she was.
And the boy's father?
I don't know. I mean, if he's still alive, I don't know. If he's dead, I know where he is, all right.
Now, Mrs. Gorman, you said you had 5 other children living with you.
The 2 youngest are mine. The rest are my husband's.
Well, let's see. That would be 8 altogether.
I didn't ask for him. When he was a baby, my daughter started leaving him with me during the day so she could go to work. Then she started leaving him with me at night so she could go out. Then she just left him.
And you've been taking care of him ever since. Now, Mrs. Gorman, when he didn't come home after a few nights, did you report it to the authorities?
Not this time.
There were other times he ran away?
I'd call the cops, and they'd pick him up. Then I'd have to go to court. The judge, he'd say, "Sonny, I'm going to let you go back to your grandma without a mark against you. But you got to be good and go to school, or I'll have to send you to reform school." So that was 2, 3 times. And the last time, the judge said, "All right, this is your last chance. Next time I'm going to put you away." So this is next time. So I didn't report him. I was afraid to.
I see. Well, Mrs. Gorman, this explains a great deal.
Yeah, sure.
Why do you say that?
I know what you think. You think I didn't report him because when he's gone, at least we have a little more room. God knows, maybe that's true.
Mrs. Gorman, are you willing to take him back?
What good would it do?
Well, all I can tell you is that he's well enough to leave the hospital. Now, we just can't show him to the door and say goodbye and be off with you. No, we've got to discharge him to the care of somebody. Now, that's either you, Mrs. Gorman, or the juvenile court.
He can come back to me.
Good. Now, can you pick him up here tomorrow morning, say at 10 o'clock? Will that be convenient?
Sure. Take a taxi.
We can supply the transportation.
No, never mind. I've been supplying everything for that boy for 15 years. I might as well go on a while. It won't be much longer.
Hi, Ben. Your grandmother was here.
You calling the cops?
Why would I?
What I did to the nurse.
Oh, you answered my questions.
I figured you'd call the cops anyway.
No, Ben. As far as I'm concerned, we made a deal.
Some people don't keep deals. You do?
I sure do.
I got to admit it. You're all right, Mr. Hudson.
Look, Ben, I can understand how it's rough living with your grandmother. Maybe after a while we'll be able to arrange something better for you. A nice, clean place, good food, fairly decent clothes. Maybe even a room of your own where you can study and catch up in school and not have to feel ashamed. That's all going to have to take time. You're leaving here tomorrow morning with your grandmother.
Why?
Because we can't keep you here.
But why can't you put me in a place like you were talking about?
I was talking about a foster home. They're in very short supply. There's not nearly enough of them for all the kids who need them.
Then how can you get one for me?
I don't say I can. I only say I'll try. You'll have to give me a few weeks, maybe a few months. But I will try, believe me.
You're all right, Mr. Hudson.
I'm very glad you think so, Ben. Now, will you do something for me?
What?
Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. You ready?
So you're the good guy, huh? How can you figure kid? Liz Thorpe couldn't try harder for that boy if he were her own child. And she can't get a pleasant word out of him. What's your secret?
Well, he's not my child. He's my client.
And he likes that?
Parents get emotional. I don't. I'm following a straight procedural line. It doesn't go up or down depending on whether he pleases me or whether he hurts my feelings. And I have no feelings about the boy, so he knows exactly what to expect of me. That's what he likes. The only thing is, I wish I knew what to expect of him.
Mrs. Thorpe, he isn't in the ward.
Are his clothes still there?
Yes.
And I think I know where he is. Anybody in there? Ben.
Come on, Ben. We know you're in there.
Taking a bath.
Ben, your grandmother's waiting in the lobby.
Tell her to go home.
I'm telling you to come out of there.
It's too bad because I locked the door.
What is this?
I'm not going back to my grandmother.
It's only for a little while.
It's not a little while. It's weeks and months. You said so.
Yes, but you can take it.
I can't take it. I can't stand it. I'll run away again.
Ben, what do you want us to do?
Let me stay here.
Oh, I wish you could, but you know you can't. This is a hospital. This is not for healthy people. Aren't you glad you're healthy again, Ben?
Bet you could let me stay if you wanted to.
Oh, grow up, Ben.
I won't be any trouble. I won't even play the radio.
Don't you understand that unless you leave here with your grandmother, we'll have to call the police?
You won't do that. See, Mr. Hudson is a pretty good guy. He keeps his deals. Well, he made a deal with me. Not to call the cops.
All right, now let's be logical. You don't want to go with your grandmother, and I don't want to see you go to the reform school. Now, the hospital can't keep you any longer, and I can't place you properly on short notice. Still, you've got to go somewhere, and you've got to go right now. So, come home with me.
What do you mean, home with you?
I mean, live with my family. Just temporarily until I can place you in a foster home.
Mr. Hudson, you kidding?
No, Ben, not kidding.
I couldn't do that.
Why not? Well, you said yourself I'm a pretty good guy. And let's face it, I've got to be better than going to the reform school.
What's the matter with you? You think I'm gonna live with niggers?
You come out of there before I put you out. Now you go back and you get dressed. And if you're not out of here with your grandmother in exactly 5 minutes, I promise you I'll call the police myself.
Don't be angry with him, Mrs. Thorpe. I stuck my own neck out.
And I thought you didn't have tender feelings about that boy.
I thought I was just making a logical suggestion.
Oh, sure, logical. To offer him your home. And professional. To give him the chance to humiliate you. Let me tell you, Mr. Hudson, if you weren't so busy trying to hide your feelings, you might learn a little bit better how to handle them and not roll them out like a red carpet for some little monster to wipe his dirty feet on.
And what are you going to do about this little monster if he doesn't leave in 5 minutes? Are you really going to call the police?
You leave. What choice does he have?
Now relax, Ben. Just try to relax. Let me see the trouble. That's fine. Does that hurt?
Yes.
And that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Doesn't that tickle LaRue?
Did he say so?
I didn't discuss it with him. All he wants to say is ouch.
Well, then how can you be sure?
I know an involuntary spasm when I feel one under my fingers. This boy is twitching on purpose, putting on an act so he can stay in the hospital.
Well, I haven't guessed right once, have I?
Patient was discharged this morning, cured of malnutrition. I see no medical reason to readmit him. He's an administrative problem now. Will you call administration so I can get on with my rounds?
I'll call him, Dr. Richter.
Thank you.
You know what I have? Visions of that kid being dragged out of here, kicking and screaming.
Well, I wouldn't feel too badly about that if I were you.
It's not a matter of how I feel. It's just an unsatisfactory way for a professional to close a case.
Mr. Hudson, is there anything I can do? Anything that could help?
And the only thing would be if we could get him to admit that he has no pain. Then at least he'd leave quietly. I'm afraid that's about all we can do for him.
Look, how would you like me to go to that boy and tell him we know he's faking?
No, he'd only deny it. May I use the phone?
I want you to use the one in the office.
Thank you.
Mr. Hudson, What about a placebo? We could give him sterile water and tell him it's for the pain. And then he'll have to say that the pain is gone. Then we'll tell him what it really was, and he'll have to admit he didn't have the pain.
No, I wouldn't do that. You see, part of the charade is the boy's acting out of hostility. Now, if we humiliate him, he'll only become more hostile and more resentful. And in the end, more antisocial than ever.
Well, let's give him the placebo and not tell him what it was. And then he'll say the pain is gone. We'll say, fine, you can go home now.
No, I wouldn't do that either. We'd be fostering the illusion that he could get away with this stunt. And pretty soon he'd be trying it somewhere else.
Well, what do you want us to do? To keep him and feed him and pamper him until he spits in your face again?
Mrs. Thorpe, when the problem was medical, now you didn't blow hot or cold. Now, whether the boy was appealing or repulsive, you still followed the straight professional line. Now, that's simply all I'm trying to do now.
Then you're fooling yourself. What is your profession, anyway? It's half theory and half bleeding heart. You build up a science around the startling principle that poverty is bad. You discover problems that everybody knew about. You don't solve them, you just give technical names to them. That's not a science. That's conversation. What good is it?
Well, for one thing, it doesn't cost as much to study as some other professions, like law or medicine. Rich men's sons don't become social workers. No, we have to get out of school and start earning a living. Now, you can't expect us to be dedicated, too. Mrs. Thorpe, if I can draw a straight line for Ben, will you follow it?
Yes.
Good. Then give him a heating pad for his neuralgia and tell him that's all you can do for him. That way he won't become humiliated, and at the same time, he won't be getting away with very much either. Will you? Thank you.
That's all.
Well, a heating pad helps neuralgia,
But I've got tic de la rue.
which is a form of neuralgia. We're giving you that pad to take home, and I'm afraid that's all we can do. Your grandmother's waiting downstairs, Ben.
Okay. Mrs. Thorpe. Boy, are you dumb.
Am I?
You and the doctors and all the rest of you. You want to know how dumb you are? I fooled you. I haven't got tic de la rue.
What about the pain?
I put one over the bunch of you dopes. School or no school, I am smarter than you are. I never had no pain.
Put your slippers on, Ben. Yeah. Give me your hand. Come with me.
Why?
You've just admitted that you didn't have the pain. Now, before you leave here, quietly, you're going to admit one more thing. That school or no school, you're not smarter than everybody else. That's it. Now, read that.
Read what?
Your chart.
Why should I read it?
Because it's about you. And tells how well you fooled everybody.
What does it say?
Well, read it.
I want to know what it says. It's about me. I got a right to know. You have to tell me. Mr. Hudson, read it to me.
Read it yourself, Ben.
Look, what are you doing to me? What are you giving me the needles for? Read it. Will you read it?
Read it yourself, Ben.
I can't read!
I never would have done that if I knew.
You knew.
I didn't.
He knew.
But he didn't tell anybody.
That's right, Ben.
Why? You told him everything else about me. How many times I got left back and how I live in a rat hole and where's my mother and father. You told him all that. Why didn't you tell him I can't read?
Because I know how it hurts to be ashamed. I've been ashamed myself once or twice. Would you believe that?
Yeah.
But if it's on account of something that I can't help, then I don't feel too badly. And that's the same with you, Ben. You can't help it about your mother and father and where you live, and that you weren't the smartest kid in school. something you can help, like not knowing how to read. When you think of children in other places going through hell trying to get an education and you won't even learn to read, now that's really something to be ashamed about. And I didn't want to hurt you that badly. I figure you'll be hurting all the rest of your life.
How come you didn't say that to me before?
Oh, Ben, what does it mean to you to have me say it? If you wise up enough, Ben, you'll be saying it to yourself.
You don't think I could learn how to read? In a special class?
Yes, maybe in a special class.
Where would I live?
With your grandmother.
Do I have to?
Yes, you have to. Until I can place you in a foster home.
Can you get me into a special class right now?
Well, you'll have to promise to stick it out.
If I don't promise?
Then I won't bother to get you in.
Well, I promise to stick with it. For a while. I'm not promising how long. I'll see how I like the home you get me.
Ben, do you have anything else you'd like to say to Mr. Hudson?
I told him before he's all right. What do you want me to say now? He stinks?
Your clients don't pay you very handsomely, do they? Or is thank you too much to expect?
Mrs. Thorpe, you're guilty of thinking like a parent.
Tell me, do you have any children of your own?
Yes, 2 of them.
I see. Does this straight-line professional technique work as well on them?
I don't know. I never tried it on my own kids.
Tell me something more. What do you do when they act out hostilities?
I suffer, Mrs. Thorpe, just like everybody else.